Listen closely. That hum you hear in the background of your life? The refrigerator compressor, the distant traffic, the HVAC unit cycling on. That is the sound of life support. When the US power grid suffers a catastrophic failure, that sound doesn't just fade out, it is cut. Instantly. And in the silence that follows, the map of the United States changes. It is no longer a map of states or borders, it becomes a topography of survival and death. Some regions will struggle, others will become immediate, inescapable death traps. I am not talking about inconvenience. I am talking about geography that is actively trying to kill you. If you live in one of the 5 regions I am about to brief you on, your timeline for survival isn't measured in weeks, it is measured in hours. The environment you live in right now is artificial. It is a bubble maintained by voltage. Pop the bubble and the climate comes rushing back in to reclaim its territory. Let's walk through the simulation of what happens when the lights go out and why your zip code might be your death sentence. We need to set the parameters for this wargame. This isn't a localized storm where the lineman from the next county comes over to fix the transformer. This is a cascading failure, a cyber attack, a coronal mass ejection, or a coordinated physical assault on substations that takes down the eastern and western interconnections. The grid is down for months, not days. The trucks stop running because the gas pumps don't work. The water stops flowing because the municipal pumps have no power. In this scenario, the United States fractures into distinct survival zones. We call these force multipliers of disaster. If you are in a temperate rural area with a well, you have problems, sure. But if you are in the desert, or a frozen metropolis, or a swamp, the environment stacks the deck against you. We are going to simulate the first 72 hours to 2 weeks in 5 specific death traps. We will look at the threat, the panic, the logistics that everyone gets wrong, and the specific nightmare that makes each region unique. If you are in one of these zones, you need to listen. This isn't theory. This is the new operating procedure. Let's start with the most obvious and brutal environment, the desert Southwest. Phoenix, Las Vegas, parts of Southern California. The scenario starts in July. It's 115 degrees outside. The grid dies at 2 p.m. At first, it's just quiet. The AC units spin down. Inside your stucco home, the thermal mass of the walls, which usually protects you, begins to absorb the sun. By sunset, the interior temperature is 90 degrees. By the next afternoon, your house is an oven. You look at your child. They are flushed, lethargic. They stop sweating. That is the first sign of heat stroke. You go to the tap for water, but the pressure is gone. The municipal pumps run on electricity, and the backup generators failed or ran dry hours ago. Now you are in a concrete bowl that retains heat. The pavement outside is hot enough to melt the rubber soles of your shoes. You are trapped in a convection oven with no way to cool down. The air inside your lungs feels heavy. You realise that the architecture of the modern Southwest was never designed for human habitation without electricity. It was designed for machines. Stop for a second. In that scenario, most people think they have 2 weeks of water stored. They look at a few cases of bottled water in the garage and think they are good. The math says you have 4 days, maybe less if you are sweating profusely. When your kid looks at you with cracked lips, asking for a drink you don't have, it is too late to do the math. You need to know your real numbers right now. I built a tool for this. Go to protocolsurvival.com. We have a survival calculator that takes your location, your family size, and your storage, and it gives you a brutal, honest survival score. It is free to try. It tells you exactly how long you last before you become a casualty. Do not guess with your family's life. Go to protocolsurvival.com, get your score, and see where the holes in your plan are before the grid goes down. Back to Phoenix, day 2. The water is gone. The panic sets in. This is where the masses react like they are in a movie, and that is what gets them killed. They get in their cars. They think, I'll just drive north to Flagstaff or east to cooler ground. But everyone has the same idea. The Interstate 17 becomes a parking lot. And here is the kicker. Modern cars, idling in 115-degree heat on blacktop that is radiating 140 degrees, begin to fail. Batteries die, cooling systems rupture. Now you have a family trapped in a steel box on a highway that has become a death strip. They can't walk. The heat would kill them in 2 miles. They can't drive. They just sit there and bake. The resource guarding starts immediately. Neighbours who were borrowing sugar yesterday are now looking at your swimming pool, if you have one, as a life source. But that pool water is full of chemicals and evaporating fast. The social contract evaporates with the water. In the desert, desperation isn't a slow creep, it is a sudden, violent snap. Now I hear the objection already. Sergeant Miller, the National Guard would bring water tankers. The Army has logistics for this. Let's steelman that argument. You are right. The US military is the greatest logistics organisation in history. They can drop water on a dime anywhere in the world. But in a national grid collapse, the military is fragmented. Their bases are also dark. Their families are also at risk. And the scale is mathematically impossible. A city like Phoenix consumes hundreds of millions of gallons of water a day. A standard military water tanker holds a few thousand gallons. You would need a convoy stretching from Arizona to the moon to hydrate the population. And that convoy has to drive on roads clogged with dead cars, through a population that is armed and dying of thirst. They are not coming to save you, not in time. If you live in the desert, your survival depends entirely on your static water storage. If you do not have 1,000 gallons buried in your yard, you are a refugee the moment the power cuts. The specific complication here is the urban heat island effect on steroids. Without the artificial cooling of millions of AC units expelling heat, you might think the city would cool down. Wrong. The concrete, the asphalt, the steel, they hold heat all night. The temperature never drops below 100 degrees, even at 3 a.m. This prevents the human body from recovering. Sleep becomes impossible. Cognitive decline sets in within 24 hours due to heat stress. You make bad decisions. You decide to drink the pool water without filtering it. You decide to walk to the store. The heat makes you stupid, and then it kills you. The desert is a binary environment. You have water and shelter, or you are dead. There is no middle ground. Move east. Region 2, the Gulf Coast. Houston, New Orleans, the Florida Panhandle. Here, the heat isn't dry. It's a physical weight. The grid goes down after a hurricane swipes the coast, or maybe just during a standard August heatwave. The humidity hits 100%. The air is stagnant. Inside your home, condensation starts to form on the walls within hours. But the real enemy here isn't just the temperature, it is the water table. Without electric pumps, the sewage lift stations fail. The toilets don't just stop flushing, the municipal waste starts backing up. The streets in low-lying areas, usually kept dry by massive pumping stations, begin to flood with a mixture of brackish seawater and raw sewage. You are wading through a toxic soup just to check on your neighbor. The smell is the first thing that breaks you. It is the smell of rot, accelerating at 90 degrees Fahrenheit. The population here is used to storms. They have hurricane parties. But a grid collapse is different. The party ends when the ice melts. The reaction here is defined by infection and containment. People try to stay in their homes to protect their property from looters, but the environment inside becomes biologically hazardous. Mold blooms explode within 48 hours. Black mold climbing the drywall. Respiratory issues spike, but the panic really hits when the industrial corridor fails. The Gulf Coast is lined with petrochemical plants. Many of these rely on grid power for cooling and containment protocols. When the backup generators at the refinery down the road fail, safety valves open to prevent explosions. Flares light up the night sky, and chemical plumes drift into the suburbs. You aren't just hot and wet, you are breathing benzene and sulphur. The population realises they are trapped between the rising toxic water and the poisoned air. The argument here is usually, I have a boat, or I'll just head north to the piney woods. Let's break that down. Evacuation routes in the Gulf are notoriously limited. If the grid is down, the traffic signals are dead. The causeways and bridges become choke points. If you have a boat, great. Where are you going? The water is full of submerged debris, cars, and power lines. And the steelman argument is that FEMA has pre-positioned supplies. In a hurricane, yes, they stage at the edge of the storm. But in a national blackout, there is no edge. The supply depots in Atlanta or Dallas are also dark. The trucks can't fuel up to get to you. The Coast Guard is overwhelmed. You are relying on a system that assumes the disaster is local. When the disaster is continental, the Gulf Coast becomes a petri dish. Your survival depends on medical discipline, treating every scratch like a mortal wound because antibiotics are gone and the water is septic. The specific nightmare for the Gulf and the Southeast is the medication clock. This region has high rates of diabetes and heart disease. Insulin and many other medications require refrigeration. In the desert, you can use evaporation cooling. In the Gulf, with high humidity, evaporation doesn't work. You cannot make a swamp cooler work in a swamp. The ice melts in 12 hours. The insulin spoils in 48. You have millions of people who are insulin dependent. When that supply chain breaks and the local pharmacy's fridge dies, you are looking at a mass casualty event that has nothing to do with bullets and everything to do with biology. You are watching a loved one go into ketoacidosis while you fan them with a wet towel that never gets cold. That is the reality of the humid zone. Region 3, the Northern Interior. The Dakotas, Minnesota, Interior New England. The scenario shifts to February. The polar vortex. It is 20 below zero. The wind chill is 40 below. The grid fails at 3 a.m. You wake up not because of noise, but because the silence is deafening. The furnace blower has stopped. The temperature in the house drops 10 degrees an hour. By dawn, you can see your breath in the living room. You put on a coat. You gather the kids in the master bedroom. But the cold here is insidious. It attacks the infrastructure of the house itself. You hear a loud crack, like a gunshot. That is your main water line bursting in the wall. Now you have water flooding the basement, and within minutes, that water turns to sheet ice. Your shelter is destroying itself. You are fighting hypothermia in your own living room. The cold makes you sleepy. It feels gentle at the end. You just want to close your eyes. That is how entire families are found, huddled together under blankets that weren't enough. The reaction in the cold is frantic. People know that cold kills fast, so they try to create heat by any means necessary. This leads to the silent killer wave. People bring charcoal grills inside. They turn on gas ovens and leave the doors open. They run generators in attached garages because they are afraid of theft or the snow. The carbon monoxide levels rise. The symptoms, headache, dizziness, are mistaken for cold or stress. Entire neighbourhoods go to sleep and don't wake up. The ones who are smarter try to burn furniture in the fireplace, but they haven't cleaned the flue in 10 years. Chimney fires start. Now you have a house fire. The fire department? They can't come. The hydrants are frozen. The trucks won't start. You are standing in the snow, watching your only shelter burn down with the temperature at 20 below. The fire warms you for an hour, and then the cold takes you. The objection here is strong. We are northerners. We have wood stoves. We have fireplaces. We know how to handle snow. Steelman accepted. Northern populations are tougher and better prepped than average. But here is the logistics failure. Biomass. Do you actually have 4 cords of seasoned hardwood stacked? Or do you have a decorative pile that lasts 3 days? In a true grid-down winter, the trees in the suburbs will be stripped bare in a week. Green wood doesn't burn well. It smokes and clogs chimneys. And modern high-efficiency wood stoves rely on electric blowers to circulate the heat. Without them, you have a hot metal box in one room and freezing temps in the rest. You are confined to a single room. The steelman assumes you can just go cut more wood. In 4 feet of snow? With no gas for the chainsaw? Burning calories you can't replace because the food is frozen solid? The energy expenditure to gather fuel eventually exceeds the heat value you get back. It is a thermodynamic death spiral. I want you to think about that wood stove calculation, or the medical inventory, or your map of local water sources. Where is that information right now? Is it on your phone? In a Google Doc? In the cloud? When the grid goes down, the cloud evaporates. Your digital brain is gone. You need a system that works when the world is dark. I built Protocol Survival to be that system. It has an offline mode. You sync it once, and then the entire database, your inventory, your maps, your medical guides, your comms plan, lives locally on your device. It works in airplane mode. It works in a bunker. It works when the cell towers are dead monoliths. Secure your data now. Go to protocolsurvival.com. Download the app. Sync it. Because if you are trying to remember the ratio for bleach to water purification while your hands are shaking from hypothermia, you will get it wrong. Let the app remember for you. Region 4, the Megalopolis. The Northeast Corridor, DC to Boston, Chicago, the Bay Area. This is where density becomes the weapon. You live on the 30th floor of a luxury apartment. The power cuts. The elevators stop. You are now physically separated from the ground by 300 feet of stairs. The water pressure in high-rises is maintained by electric pumps. The taps go dry instantly on the upper floors. You have what is in your fridge, but the real problem is waste. You use the toilet. It doesn't flush. You use it again. Within 2 days, millions of people in vertical stacks are living with buckets of human waste. The smell in the stairwells, the only exit, becomes overpowering. You are trapped in a vertical coffin. To get water, you have to walk down 30 flights, find a source in a chaotic city, carry 40 pounds of water, and climb 30 flights back up. Do that twice a day. Now imagine doing it while guarding your wife from the desperate crowds in the lobby. The city isn't a shelter anymore, it's a cage. The reaction in the cities follows a strict timeline. The first 24 hours are confusion. Then comes the golden hour of escape. This is the window where you might be able to get out. But most people miss it. They wait for the government. By day 3, the realization hits that no help is coming. That is when the exodus begins. But a city like New York or Chicago is geographically constrained. Bridges, tunnels, these are choke points. Without traffic lights, without police coordination, a single fender bender blocks a bridge forever. The masses spill out onto the highways on foot. It looks like a scene from history we thought we left behind. Refugees in their own country. The violence in the city spikes, not out of malice initially, but out of resource competition. The bodegas are emptied in an hour. The pharmacies are next. If you are still in the city on day 4, you are not escaping. You are barricading. The steelman argument here is, the cities are the priority. The government will secure the financial centres first. Correct. They will secure Wall Street. They will secure the government buildings. They will not secure your apartment block in Queens. The National Guard will set up perimeters, but those perimeters are to keep people out of the green zones, not to bring food to you. The logistics of feeding 8 million people without a functioning rail or trucking network are impossible. There isn't enough food in the warehouses. Just-in-time delivery means the city has 3 days of food, max. The food desert concept becomes total. And regarding the ill-just loot strategy, everyone has that plan, which means you are entering a high-threat combat zone for a can of beans. The density that makes cities efficient in peace makes them fatal in collapse. The math of calories in versus calories out doesn't work when you are competing with 10,000 people for the same city block. The specific horror for the dense city is fire. Historically, cities burn when services fail. San Francisco 1906. The Blitz. Without water pressure in the hydrants, a single candle knocked over in an apartment on the 10th floor doesn't just burn one room, it burns the building. The fire jumps. There are no fire trucks coming. The streets are blocked with abandoned cars. You watch the skyline burn from your window, knowing the wind is pushing it toward you. The smoke fills the canyons between buildings. You are forced to choose, stay and burn, or descend into the anarchy on the street. The modern city is composed of flammable materials stacked into the sky. Without the suppression systems that run on pressure and sensors, the city returns to its primal state. Fuel. Region 5. The water-stressed West and wildfire country. California, Oregon, parts of the Mountain West. Here, the grid collapse often coincides with the weather event that causes it, high winds and drought. The Santa Ana winds are blowing, the power lines arc and spark before going dead, igniting the brush. Now the grid is down and the fires are moving. But this time, the warning systems are dead. No cell alerts, no sirens. You smell the smoke before you see the flames. The electric garage door opener won't lift. You have to pull the manual release, but the door is heavy. You get the car out, you hit the road, but the gas stations are dead. The traffic is gridlocked, and the fire is moving at 60 miles per hour. You look in the rearview mirror and see the glow. You aren't just out of power, you are being hunted by the landscape. The firefighters are grounded because communications are down and they can't coordinate airdrops. You are on your own in a burning world. We treat the grid like it's a utility, like it's just a wire that brings us Netflix and cold beer. It isn't. The grid is a cage. It is a cage that we built to keep nature out. It keeps the heat out of the desert. It keeps the water out of the swamp. It keeps the cold out of the north. When the grid fails, the cage opens, and the beast comes inside. Whether that beast is the sun, the ice, the water, or the fire, the result is the same. The artificial environment collapses, and you are left with the raw reality of where you chose to live. Don't look at the map and see states. Look at the map and see thermal risks, water risks, population density risks. Plan accordingly. If you are in a death trap, your plan cannot be to ride it out. Your plan must be to move, or to harden your shelter beyond what you think is reasonable. Because when the hum stops, the clock starts. and nature doesn't negotiate. Stay safe. Stay prepared. End of transmission.